Number 7. Abel Gallegos. Abel Gallegos stood in the Jefferson County District Court, his fate sealed with a sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, alongside 163 additional years for his unspeakable role in the brutal kidnapping and murder of Simon Duran. Gallegos and 2 others, Alonzo Quintana and Rene Francisco Rosales, were apprehended and sentenced to the brutal murder. They were found guilty of multiple counts for their participation in a vengeful killing. Duran had become a target after she identified Quintana in a lineup during a previously attempted slaying investigation in Adams County, which led Gallegos and his accomplices to seek revenge. Duran was tricked and taken captive on the fateful November day in 2018, only to be shot 10 times as she pleaded for mercy, then callously set on fire, according to the authorities. Gallegos had initiated contact with Duran through social media and then met with Rosales and others at Denver House. After leaving together, Gallegos took Duran to a parking lot where they encountered Quintana, who joined in with the attack. The trio then drove her to a remote location where they shot her 10 times before returning to pour gasoline on her lifeless body and set it ablaze. Gallegos had already been convicted of 5 other felonies and his parole or probation had been revoked 8 times. Judge Philip McNulty, who presided over the case, was outraged by the cold-bloodedness of the attack and complete lack of regard for human life displayed by Gallegos and his cohorts. He delivered a scathing condemnation, stating that Gallegos would never be allowed to roam free among civilized society again, and that his punishment would be a life spent behind bars. Number 6. Gang of 3. After 2 days of intense deliberations, the jury had found 3 men guilty of the brutal slaying of Kenneth Hill, the owner of a popular party store in Clinton's township. The courtroom was filled with tension as the judge read out the charges. Hill's family sat quietly in the gallery, tears streaming down their faces as they waited for justice to be served. The accused Kenneth Dwayne Hill, Jomar Devell Robinson, and Darius Araman Diaz Gaskin stood stoically as the verdict was read out. The 3 men were not the only ones responsible for the crime, as a 4th accomplice had already been sentenced to life without parole. The store surveillance video captured the incident, which lasted just over a minute. It showed the 3 culprits entering the store within 20 seconds, shooting and killing the innocent store owner Basim Sulaka. Sulaka's sister Vivian spoke out about her brother, describing him as a peaceful man who did not believe in keeping a gun in his store. She said that he never installed thick plexiglass as he trusted his customers and believed in the safety of his community. During the trial, Diaz Gaskin's lawyer tried to defend his client's actions, claiming that he had thought gun safety was on, but the jury was convinced and found all 3 guilty. Number 5. Christopher Lockett. In April 29, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office revealed the chilling details of a heinous crime committed by Christopher Lockett and his accomplices Xavier Gibson, Cortez Clark, Joshua Rooks, and Jasper Green. All members of the notorious gangster disciplined street gang, these criminals were convicted of multiple charges, including the murder and participation in criminal street gang activity. The charges were linked to the gruesome killing of Christopher Dean, a former police informant from California. What started as a simple drug transaction turned into a nightmare for Dean, as Lockett and his gang members discovered his past and decided to make an example of him. The brutal torture and murder of Dean included being beaten with a 2x4 and a crowbar, being sodomized with a handle-like object, and being shot twice in the back of the head. Following the guilty verdict, Fulton County District Attorney Paul L. Howard expressed his concern about the violent nature of the crime. In a statement, he stated that doing nothing would result in repeat of violence. The crime committed by the gang members is considered most horrific death in history. Lockett received a life sentence in prison with no chance of parole. Clark was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences and an additional 5 years. Green was given a life sentence with 3 years. Brooks and Gibson were both sentenced to life imprisonment. Number 4. The Carpio Brothers. In 2013, 2 brothers committed a crime that shook the city of Cleveland to its core. Anthony and Michael Carpio, members of a notorious street gang, were found guilty of fatally stabbing 18-year-old Kevin Orozco, who was not affiliated with any gang, at Cleveland High School in Reseda. The Carpio brothers' actions may have brought them temporary power and control, but ultimately they will spend their life in jail, paying the price for their terrible deeds. The city of Cleveland may never forget the tragedy that occurred on that fateful day, but justice has been served. Number 3. Lee Rios. In 2015, Lee Rios, a Latin Kings gang member, was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. He was convicted of shooting an 18-year-old boy named Kenneth Lopez with extreme cruelty and meticulous planning. With the help of other gang members, Rios lured Lopez from his home and carried out the heinous act. Rios boasted about the killing after the incident, indicating his psychopathic tendencies. During his sentences, Rios showed no remorse for his actions and had a stoic expression as the judge read out his fate. He did not show any sympathy towards Lopez's family. Rios was just another criminal who believed he was above the law and received the punishment he deserved. Number 2. George Thomas. Despite being found guilty on 53 charges including 7 murders, George Thomas attempted to convince the court they had not been an active gang member since 1998. However, the court ruled that he had used his position within the prison gang to orchestrate the killings, reminding them of his previous convictions for home invasions, murder and assault. The trial against Thomas and his 16 accomplices lasted a marathon. 6 other gangsters were also sentenced to life imprisonment under the Prevention of Organised Crime Act for crimes committed between 2006 and 2010, which included slaying, conspiracy to commit slaying and racketeering. To make matters worse, Thomas turned the prison into his headquarters, making over 30,000 cell phone calls between 2008 to 2010 while awaiting trial. Number 1. Victor Rodas. People like Victor Rodas, an alleged member of the notorious MS-13 gang, make the world dangerous. He has been found guilty of his role in the brutal slaying of 17-year-old Raymond Wood. This heinous crime has been sentenced to 55 years in jail, which is still not enough time for his despicable crime. During the trial, evidence revealed that Rodas had lured Wood to the crime scene under the guise of a fake drug deal and then ambushed him with his co-defendants. They abducted Wood from his home, strangled him unconscious in the back seat of a car, and stabbed him 29 times with a 17-inch thick knife. Witness testimony also revealed that everyone, including Rodas, laughed during the murder. This is not some twisted horror movie, it's real life. Despite looking half bored and indifferent, Rodas showed no remorse for his actions in the courtroom. The defense tried to argue that he was simply caught up with the wrong crowd, but as a member of MS-13, a gang known for its ruthless violence, he knew exactly what he was doing. Thankfully, justice prevailed and Rodas was sentenced to 55 years behind bars for his role in the slaying of Raymond Wood.